Prithvi Shantirantarikshagam Shantir Dyau Shantir Disha Shantiravantaram Disha Shantiragni Shantir Vayu Shantiraditya Shantish Chandrama Shantir Nakshatrani Shantirapa Shantiroshadaya Shantir Vanaspataya Shantir Gau Shantiraja Shantirashva Shantif Purusha Shantir Brahma Shantir Brahmana Shantif Shantireva Shanti Shantir Me Astu Shantihi. May there be peace on earth and in the sky. May there be peace in the water and in all directions. May there be peace in the plants, in the trees, and in animals. May there be peace in the hearts of all beings. May there be peace in everyone and in everything. Sarvetra Sukhinas Santu. Sarve Santu Niramayaha. Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu. Ma Kaschit Dukha Bhag Bhavet. Sarvastaratu Durgani. Sarvo Bhadrani Pashyatu. Sarvas Sadbuddhimapnotu. Sarvas Sarvatra Nandatu. May all be happy and healthy. May all see what is good, and may no one experience misery. May all overcome their obstacles and acquire good tendencies. May people everywhere find joy and fulfillment. Let us now spend some time touching the center of peace and joy in our hearts. A good way to begin the practice is to withdraw the scattered energies of the mind and bring them to rest on one point. That point can be our own breathing. Let us therefore practice breathing with awareness. As we breathe in, let us visualize that our body and mind are being filled with love, strength, and compassion. And as we breathe out, let us release all the stress, anxiety, and exhaustion in the body and mind. Let us practice this way for a while. Let us now turn our attention to the region of our heart. Although God is present everywhere and in everyone, the divine presence can be felt most clearly in our own hearts. We can meditate in any way we have been taught. To remain focused, we can take the help of a short mental prayer or a mantra or a divine name. Let us now spend some time dwelling on the presence of God in our hearts. Om Asatoma Satkamaya Tamasoma Jyotirgamaya Mrityorma Amritam Gamaya Aviravir Mayedhi Rudrayate Dakshinam Mukham Tenamam Pahi Nityam. May the Divine lead us from the unreal to the real, from darkness to light, from death to immortality. May the Divine consciousness fill our hearts and protect us. So today we begin Amritabindu Upanishad. The Upanishads, as most of you are aware, are a part of the Vedas. Vedas are sometimes broadly classified into four sections or four sections. It's a good term. The first section in the Vedas are called Samhitas. Samhitas are essentially hymns and invocations to higher powers and higher powers of nature, the different aspects of the divine. The second part of the Vedas, the second section, are a class of books called Brahmanas. Now that second section includes the details about how all the different Vedic rituals, worships are performed. The how of worship, what are the things, because the Vedic worship used to be a lot more intricate, a lot more elaborate than some of the small pujas that we do nowadays. And so how those pujas had to be done, how those bricks, what kind of bricks, and how they are to be arranged before that havana, that worship is done, all those details are given in the second section called the Brahmanas. The third section of the Upanishads, of the Vedas, is called Aranyakas. It comes from the word Aranya, which means forest. Now, the third section has all mental worships. So, all of the pujas and the worships and the rituals that can be done externally can also be done internally, mentally. So, the third section, Aranyakas, is about doing all these worships internally. That is, not externally. And the fourth section of the Vedas are called the Upanishads. And these contain the most philosophical portions of the Vedas. So it begins with rituals, the way to do the rituals, different forms of meditations, and then in the end, this highest philosophy. Now, these four sections of the Vedas are related to the four broad stages of life in the course of a human being, especially as it was seen during the Vedic period. So when the student came of age, usually it was around, again the opinion varies, but approximately when you're between 8 to 10 years of age, that was the time they had this something similar or something parallel to what we might say the bar mitzvah kind of a thing. So it's a kind of a formal beginning of education in the Hindu tradition, and they had one kind of a ceremony, and that ceremony has persisted to this day in the form of what gets called now as the thread ceremony. So that was really the formal beginning of education in the Vedic period. So after that ceremony was done, the student, both boy or a girl, they had to go to the teacher's place. Remember, there were no schools and colleges like we have now. So the only place to go, and there were no books either. And so the only place to learn was to go to the teacher's place and stay there. So the student remained in at the teacher's place. So there was no day scholars. It was a completely residential thing. So, and the student remained as a part of the teacher's family. So the student did all the work there, just like any son or a daughter in the family would do, and received instructions from the teacher. Now, the first thing that the student was taught was the Gayatri Prayer. And as we have seen on earlier occasions, the primary function of that prayer is to awaken this power of spiritual intuition, the higher mind, what gets sometimes called. So the reason is that when we study a text like this, now of course there are translations available, if you know the language well enough, you more or less understand what the text is saying. But in order to read between the lines, not just the words and not the meaning of words, but the inner essence, inner essence of the scripture, then you need a clarity, inner clarity. And so the Gayatri prayer was the prayer for clarity, so that when I read something, let me understand what the true intended meaning is. And then the teacher would see at what level the student is, and the first thing that the teacher taught was the first section of the Vedas, the different hymns, the different prayers. So that was the first thing. And the student then was also taught the second section, which taught how the rituals are to be done. Not all the rituals the student had to do at that time, because many of these, in fact, most of the rituals, the Vedic rituals, can be done only when you start a family. So there are a few rituals that students had to do, but when they went to the teacher's place, the teacher first taught them the principle behind all these rituals, of what it means, how they are to be done. And whichever rituals they had to do as students, they did then. When that education was complete, then the student returned home, by which time the student parents have reached the third stage. As the children reach the second stage of life, the parents obviously are, it's not that the children are getting older, the parents are getting older too. So the parents reach the third stage. And therefore, the rituals that the parents were doing, the family rituals, which they hand it over to the children. And then the children then continue the family tradition, doing the rituals. So that was then rituals as described in the Brahmana section. Now, when these children grow up, by the time their children have finished their education, and then when these children enter the third stage, what today we might say, semi-retirement, if you like. In olden days, what it really meant was that after handing over the family responsibilities to the children who have grown up, the parents retired to forest. And usually forest had the hermitages of these great rishis, kind of a retirement community, what today we might say. And then, because they had done all these rituals all through their life, but because of age and they were no longer required to do all of those rituals externally any longer. Because doing this external worship had purified them to an extent that they could continue to do that worship only internally. So mental worship, manasa puja, as it is called. So in the third stage, Aranyaka, the third portion of the Vedas, which meant that doing all of those worships internally, you just meditate. So just as we can do worship externally, you're offering flowers, incense, well, internally, you visualize the divine in whichever form you worship the divine in your heart, and mentally you can offer worship. You can offer flowers, you can offer food, and mental worship is oftentimes more powerful. It's not easy, but more powerful. Think about it this way. It's in New England, when there's winter, well, we don't even want to think about it right now, but when there's winter and it's not easy to find flowers, mental worship, you still have all the freedom. You can offer all the flowers that you want to offer, even though they may no longer be available in your garden. So don't think, though, that mental worship is simply imagination. The books say that the benefit from mental worship is not any less than the benefit done through external worship. So they're equally powerful. So the third section of the Vedas, Aranyakas, describe, for instance, the horse sacrifice called Ashwamedha. So to actually do that sacrifice was a very elaborate thing. The third section, the Aranyaka, describes that you can do these very elaborate sacrifices mentally. In fact, the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, one of the major Upanishads, begins with how to do that horse sacrifice, the Ashwamedha, through meditation. So that was expected then to purify this person even more. So remember, your life begins with studies, then you do the family responsibilities, carry out the ritual, then you continue to do meditation. Now, through all this process, a person was expected to have attained enough purity and detachment, then ready for that last stage of life. And that was, they retired further into the forest and led a life completely dedicated to the quest for the spirit, dedicated to God. And that was the time that last Upanishad comes in. And that was the stage is called sannyasa. So the first stage was called brahmacharya. The second stage was called garhastya, where grihastha is the householder life. The third stage is called vanaprastha, going to the forest, or what I described as a retirement, a life of retirement. And the fourth stage was being a hermit, renouncing everything and dedicating oneself solely to the quest for the spirit. So these four sections of the Vedas were in this way related to the four stages of our life. So the Upanishads, as you can see, therefore, comes towards the end. And in Sanskrit, the end is called Anta. It comes towards the end of Vedas. So Veda plus Anta, that's Vedanta. So the Upanishads, therefore, another name for the Upanishads is Vedanta. It's clear from this very, very broad description that the greater the clarity we have, the better our understanding of the Upanishads will be. So there are many Upanishads. According to some, there are 108, and some say 28, and then some. The Upanishads that have become most well known are primarily 10 in number. And these 10 have become better known and are studied by greater number of people because Shankaracharya, the great Vedanta philosopher and teacher, he wrote commentaries on these 10 Upanishads, and that's why they are like the most known. The Upanishad that we are studying now is one of the very smaller Upanishads. And there is no known commentary by Shankaracharya on this. And so a lot of these smaller Upanishads, this one has only 22 verses. Smaller Upanishads are usually kind of grouped under a broad category called minor Upanishads. Now, because they are called minor Upanishads, that doesn't necessarily mean they are less important. It's just that they are small. The advantage in studying some of the small Upanishads is that because they are small, they have to go straight to the point. There isn't a detour into a lot of subjects. There isn't too many intricacies involved. If you go to some of the bigger Upanishads called the Brihadaranyaka or Chandogya, they're huge. And sometimes you can get just lost in them because they are very, very intricate, very elaborate. Historically, they are also said to be very ancient. And so some of the meditations and some of the things mentioned in it, you really need commentaries to make sense of them. Now, relatively speaking, these minor Upanishads are more direct. It's a little bit like someone was asked, although this anecdote is often attributed to Churchill, who knows, but what he was asked was this, because he was one of the very powerful speakers of his time. So someone, it seems, asked him, how much time do you normally take to prepare a 15-minute talk? And then Churchill it is said that he said, I'll need a week to prepare a 15-minute talk. What if it is a half an hour talk? And then he said, I'll probably need 3 days. And what if it's an hour-long talk? And he said, I'm ready right now. The idea is this. If you have a more time in hand, you can afford to wander about a little bit here and there. But if you have a very short time, then you really have to stick to the point. And so here it's not so much a question of time, it's just the space. So because now the Upanishad we are studying has only 22 verses, they really just go to the heart of the matter. And that's good for us, that we are able to, what's the phrase they say? Cut through the chase? Cut through the chase? Yeah. So and then we just kind of get. So you can see right away as we begin the study, it just goes straight. So Amritabindu, Amrita is sometimes translated as nectar. Bindu is a drop. So Amritabindu can sometimes be translated as a drop of nectar, if you like. So many of you have the text already. So let's chant the way we used to chant for the Gita. Mano hi dvividham proktam Shuddham cha shuddhameva cha Ashuddham kama sankalpam Shuddham kama vivarjitam. The mind is said to be of two kinds, pure and impure. The impure mind is filled with desire, and the pure mind is free from desire. Again, very straightforward, very clear. We'll see this word pure or purity and impurity coming again and again in religious literature. And sometimes the word puts off a lot of people, like what is this purity and what am I now? And it just kind of sets up a whole train of confusion, just this word purity. I find it easier to understand the meaning simply this, that when something is pure or not contaminated, then it's able to do its function in a perfect way. When something is contaminated, it cannot do its function properly. So if there is a virus in your computer, it's contaminated. It's not pure. And therefore, it might do some of the things well, but some of the things it won't. But if your computer is completely virus-free, then it will do exactly what it is supposed to do. That's, I find, is a very good understanding of what purity or impurity means. In that sense, look at now who we are. According to Vedanta, that we are all the infinite being. We are spirit. We are not this finite body and mind which come and go, which have birth and death, which are always changing. That's not who we are. And although some of us may have read about it and intellectually like the idea, but that's not our experience right now. We don't feel we are birthless and deathless. We don't feel we are infinite. We are not always filled with contentment either. Well, there is a lot of stress, anxiety, worry, fear. So our present experience is very different from what we are told who we are. And the reason is a virus has entered into us. And that virus, the Vedanta says, is simply that virus is called ignorance. And because of that virus, we are not able to function in an ideal way. So that's what purity and impurity is. And that is what is said. The mind is said to be of two kinds, pure and impure. So when there is a virus inside, it is impure. When there is no virus, it's pure. Now, the virus in the spirit is ignorance. And one of the first effects of ignorance is the rise of desire. And it's understandable. If I'm infinite, if I alone exist, then I lack nothing. I don't desire anything because there is nothing apart from me to desire. And I'm full. I'm Purna. There is no sense of incompleteness in me. Now, what does ignorance mean? If I forget, if I no longer remember that I'm infinite, then I'm going to think of myself as finite. Well, that's what ignorance is, right? If I'm infinite and I know I'm infinite, then that's knowledge. But ignorance means I'm infinite, now somehow I've forgotten about it. And I see myself as finite. Now, when I become small, I become finite, I suddenly discover there are a lot of other finite entities. Because infinities, there can be only one infinite. But the moment I'm small, the moment I forget that I'm the infinite one, I forget that I am whole, I am complete. I begin to see myself as incomplete. And if I see myself as incomplete in some way, then the natural thing is, I want to be complete. And what is hunger? Hunger is nothing but I feel a sense of incompleteness in my stomach. And what do? I go and eat something. So I'm trying to complete the sense of emptiness I feel in my stomach. And that's what I do. If I feel a desire to know, desire for knowledge, is really feeling a sense of incompleteness. That is, I don't have knowledge. And that
it's my knowledge of my ignorance would want me to seek knowledge to remove that ignorance. So all seeking, all wanting, all desire comes from the awareness of lacking something within us. Because when we are, it's like this, when you had a good hearty meal, you don't feel like eating anymore. In fact, you will refuse if someone gives it to you because you don't feel you lack anything. So what we seek is what we lack. And now because I see myself as incomplete, desire is nothing but a desire to complete myself, a desire to fill whatever it is that I lack. And that is why the virus in the mind is a desire. Why is it a virus? Because we know when there is desire in the mind is not calm. Because there is always the thing, how can I get, I want this. And how can I get it? What should I do? We know that. And the more the number of desires, the more restless the mind becomes. There are times that it's not that we are desiring all the time. It isn't that. So sometimes the best example that comes to my mind is when you had a really good sleep. And they say next day, it's a long weekend, you don't have to rush anywhere, and you had a good sleep, and you just kind of wake up, there is nothing to do, no deadlines. And then you're not really at that moment, the first few moments after waking up, you're not really desiring anything. That's a wonderful time because you just feel be at peace with yourself and peace with the world around you. Now, how wonderful would be if such is my condition, not just those few moments after waking up, but all through the day, all through my life. So desire is what makes the mind impure. And when the mind is free from desire, it will become pure. And that's what this first verse says. The mind is of two kinds. Second verse. Mana eva manushyanam karanam bandha mokshayoho bandhaya vishaya saktam muktam nirvishayam smritam. It is indeed the mind that is the cause of people's bondage and freedom. The mind that is attached to sense objects leads to bondage, and the mind that is detached from sense objects leads to freedom. So what is desire? We have seen desire is wanting something outside of myself. And that whatever is outside of myself is an object of my perception, object of my senses. Because how do I know things that are outside of myself? Only when my senses grasp them. I see this object here because my sense of perception is able to grasp it. And therefore, this is a sense object. In fact, everything in the world is a sense object because they are objects through which I am able to see them, perceive them, with the help of my senses. What is the meaning of this first sentence? The mind that is the cause of people's bondage and cause of freedom, because the sense of bondage that we have is experienced primarily in the mind. It's the mind that ties us down. Now, of course, the body ties us down also. But the body is let me put it this way. If body and mind are seen as coverings over me and I am the spirit, then clearly these coverings have to go. Only then will I be able to, my divinity will be able to manifest fully. Now for the body to go, I really don't have to do much at all. It's going. Every moment we are going one moment closer to death. It's not a very pleasant way to express it, I know, but that's it. So whether we like it or not, the body will go. So that covering, we don't have to worry too much about that covering. It's going to go. It will be replaced by another one, but it'll go. It's more perishable. It's the mind that's problematic, because the mind is very persistent. The mind is of finer material. It's not as coarse as the body is. And therefore, the mind that we have now is the mind that we have had in all of our past births. The mind is not different. In fact, what connects one life with the next is the mind. So the memories, the impressions that we come with are lodged in the mind, not in the body. So when you study the Gita or the Upanishad, this knowledge, the memory of the Gita, the Upanishad, is lodged in your brain, which is a part of the physical body. So after a person dies, and if that person has studied the Gita, and that person is reborn again, that person can't say, well, I studied it last birth. No, it doesn't work. Because now you've got a fresh new brain. So you'll have to study that book again. But if that person has studied the Gita and tried to live according to it, tried to practice what it has to teach, then the impressions created as a result of that practice, the experience that is generated as a result of that practice, that experience is lodged in the mind, not in the brain. So the clarity that the mind acquires, the purity that the mind acquires, that is not a part of the brain. So that remains. And that is why, although all newborn babies, they kind of all look wonderful and everyone loves them, when the babies grow a bit older, we begin to see that they are very different. That's the reason. Why is there variety in this world? If everyone comes with a clean slate, then there shouldn't have been so much difference. Even siblings growing in the same home, the same set of parents, same set of, everything is identical. They go to the same school, they have the same teachers, same neighbors, and yet the siblings turn out to be so different. So it's not just the environment, it's not just the heredity that makes the difference. There is some package we already come with. But that's not fixed, of course. So depending on what we do in this life, how we use the gifts that we have, we can change, we can improve. It's not a fixed entity. But none of us comes with a clean slate. We all already come with the impressions from our past lives. And those impressions are in the mind. I once asked a question to my Vedanta teacher, that when we say that the goal of life is to become free, who really becomes free? By who I mean, if you look at the human personality, well, normally we say in a simple way that, well, there is the body, there is the mind, and then there is the spirit. Now, the spirit, the Atman, is always free, is eternally free. So, because it is eternally free, it never gets into bondage, and it doesn't need freedom because it's already free. The body and mind are perishable. The body and mind don't even have an absolute existence. The body and mind are just the results of ignorance. They are not even conscious in themselves. The body and mind are just a bunch of atoms and molecules. Except that what makes them seem conscious is that my spirit has kind of held on to them and saying, this is me. And that's why they seem alive. So the body and mind being material, there is no question of freedom for them. There is no even quest for freedom because they don't have any consciousness of their own. So who really becomes free? The Atman is already free. The body mind don't need freedom. So who gets freedom? And so my teacher said, he gave a very brilliant answer. So when my question was, who becomes free? And his answer was, one who thinks I am in bondage becomes free. Because, right, it's like this. Even though books might say the goal of life is freedom, not all of us in the world are looking for freedom. The reason we are not looking for freedom is we don't feel that bondage. So let's go back to what I said before. We only look for what we lack. So only when my bondage becomes real to me will I want freedom badly. If I don't feel I'm bound, freedom as a goal will not be real for me. If someone is, let's say, has been sentenced to imprisonment, say 25 years in jail or 50 years in jail, in the prison. Now that person who is in a prison knows what bondage means. That person understands the value of freedom. Well, those of us, we see ourselves, oh, we are in a free country, we are in a free society, we are already free. Well, if I'm already free, oh, what kind of freedom are we talking about? So even in order for us to want freedom in life, at some stage we'll have to experience a sense of bondage. And that's why then we look at our life in Vedanta and say, am I really free? Surely in some respects, all of us, there's no doubt that in many respects, the kind of freedoms that we enjoy here are more than freedoms in some other parts of the world. That's true. But does that mean we are free in every sense of the term? Are we free from our own limitations? Are we completely free from hatred, biases, prejudices? Are we free from the limitations that our bodies and mind impose upon us? So when we begin to see that way within us, we realize, yes, I'm free in some respects, but in many respects I'm not free. And it is in those respects in which I'm not free that the problems in my life come. All this dissatisfaction, unfulfillment, fear, anxiety, stress, worry comes to me through that part of my life where I don't feel that freedom. And the more I become aware of that bondage and limitation within me, the more then I would want to be free. So mind which feels that bondage will search for freedom. And that's why it is said, the cause of the bondage is because of the mind, and a mind filled with desires. And a freedom will be when the mind becomes free from desire. And freedom from desire automatically means that I don't feel that sense of unfulfillment. I feel I'm full. And that is the experience a person will get when all the limitations are removed. So the mind that is attached to sense object leads to bondage, and the mind that is detached from sense objects leads to freedom. Let's read verse number 3. Yato nirvishayasyasya manaso muktirishyate ato nirvishayam nityam manaf karyam mumukshuna. Since freedom comes to the mind that is detached from sense objects, whoever longs for freedom should always seek to detach the mind from sense objects. It's very logical. The question is, what does detaching from sense objects mean? Now, if I open my eyes, I am going to see this. I really don't have much freedom because my senses are not under my control. Ideally speaking, if the senses are my instruments, my eyes should be open, but I should be able to tell my eyes, don't see it, and the eyes shouldn't see it. My ears should be open, and I don't want to hear some sound. I should be able to tell my ear, stop hearing it, Now I'll have to kind of put some earplugs or something. That's the only way it works. A great disciple of Ramakrishna named by Swami Sharadananda, he used to be a secretary of Holy Mother. And along with that, he was also the secretary of the whole order. So he had a very busy schedule. Alongside that, he also wrote a big biography of Ramakrishna. So in his life, we read that he used to always sit, those of you who have been to Calcutta, the mother's house, at the main entrance, there is a tiny little room. He would just sit there, and so he had to keep a look of which people are coming in and going out, because a lot of people would come to meet the Holy Mother, and he had to be there to receive visitors and so on. And so when he said that whenever he would sit there and decide, now I'm going to spend some time writing this biography, this work that he had undertaken. So he said all that he would do at that time, tell his ears, don't hear anything. He didn't use any earplugs. And sitting right there, when there was all this commotion, people coming in and out, he said the mind would become completely silent, and he was able to concentrate and do it. So that's one way of detaching from sense object, which these great yogis and people who have had this great control can do it. It's not necessary that all of us have to do it, although eventually if we can, that's great. The problem really is not so much my seeing something. The problem is my reacting to it. If you simply see, just see, that's not a problem. But we never really just see. For instance, now, if I look at a chair, I'm not simply looking at the chair. When I look at the chair, I say, oh, that looks like a great chair. And then because I know when this chair was installed, brought here, I might say, oh, it was about 10 years ago we got it. And this color, and then you can appreciate the color, the texture, the size, everything. So when you look at something, you are not simply looking at it. You are all these ideas associated with that thing automatically come to you. Similarly, when you look at a person, you just don't look at the person. As soon as you see, and if it's a person known to you, you know the name of that person, the form, and then all the memories associated with that person, all the incidents that with the person, all of those things, not all of them may not come at the same time, but things, the history of the person as known to you will automatically kind of start in your mind. And we react. We react, either we like someone, we dislike someone, we hate someone. So it is that reaction to things that attaches to the object. In fact, if you just see, it's like this. Now my eyes are closed. I'm not seeing anything. When I open my eyes, in that first nanosecond, I'm seeing nothing but God. But God gets covered, so to speak, by all the forms, names, and then all these ideas associated with everything. So name and form actually hide the reality. You go to the ocean, and of course there are going to be waves there. But suppose, imagine an ocean without any waves, just water, plain water, completely still. You will see water and you won't see anything else. But then there are waves. Now when you go to the ocean, you will see waves. Even if the ocean is not very deep, with at least ripples, you will see something on the water. That's a distraction. Because the waves and the ripples are nothing but the water, the same water that's taken some form and undergoing, got a certain name and moving in a certain way. So name and form are distractions that they hide the reality. So this is nothing but God. But I open my eyes and suddenly the shape of this thing, the texture, the material of which it is made, all of these ideas come in my mind and cover it. that is what attaches me to it. And then, of course, I like it, I dislike it, all of my reactions to it. So the way to detach from a sense object is to learn to just see. Now that's very easily said than done. So what do we do now? As students of Vedanta, are there any preparations? Are there any preliminary steps I can take in order for me to not attach myself to anything? There are at least two things we can do. First is, whatever I encounter in life, there are at least two questions we can ask. One is, what can I learn from it? This is one very helpful tip in life. If we go through life, every little thing in life, from the time you wake up till the time you go to sleep, that everything that is happening in my life is trying to teach me something. And therefore, if I continue to remain a student, don't think education stops after you graduate from schools. A true spiritual seeker is a student all through his or her life. In fact, Swami Vivekananda used to say, learning is religion. If we keep that in mind, and if we go through carrying out our duties and responsibilities daily, you are going to encounter people, you're going to encounter objects, but keep this in mind that everything is meant to teach me something. You have a conversation with someone, somewhere in the corner of your heart, you know, what am I learning from this? Am I learning anything useful? Or if you have even had a very bitter experience, a very painful experience, you can still ask, what was that experience was trying to teach me something? And if I learn my lesson from that, that will stop bothering me. Everything that is bothering me in life continues to bother me because life was trying to teach me something and I have not yet learned the lesson. Once I know, oh, this is what life was trying to teach me, that particular thing will stop bothering you. So that is the first thing. And a second thing I can keep in mind is, how can I help make things better? So if I have not acquired enough control over my senses, if I'm still seeing things, if I'm not able to stop reacting to things, then let me at least have these two reactions. One, what can I learn from this experience? And second, how can I help? Is it possible for me to help make things a little better? Now, this way you are reacting, but this way of reacting will actually help me become strong enough to be able to control my senses later on. This is something that will help me spiritually. But all other kinds of reactions that we have are not really helping me grow spiritually. So first three verses, we have seen mind is of two kinds, pure and impure. We've seen what the meaning of pure and impure is. What is it? Why? What roles do desire plays? Why desire is an impurity, and why freedom from desire is what is sought. And then we saw that freedom comes from detachment from sense objects. And detachment of sense object doesn't mean that we won't see the sense objects, but it means that I will stop reacting to it. I'll develop truly the attitude of a witness. There was Christopher Isherwood's one book was, I'm a camera. It's not easy to be a camera. A camera doesn't react. If there's a camera here and the camera sees exactly what I'm seeing, the setting, but I am reacting to what I'm seeing. A camera doesn't react. So can I be a camera that I'm see, be a witness, learn from everything, don't react. So these are some of the ideas that come to us. So we'll stop here today. If you have any thoughts, ideas, questions, comments?
Swamiji, in this context, is pure mind the same as pure heart?
Heart will come in the next two verses, so I'll have a lot more to say on that. So,
Okay.
yeah, we'll discuss it next week. Yeah, yeah.
Swamiji, you spoke about desires, and desire maybe leading to birth or causing soul to take a form. I'm just curious to know, is there a first desire? Because if soul is free, the spirit is free, then for it to be in bondage or to come in body, there must have been the first desire.
No, there is no first desire.
So it doesn't form some sort of a causal chain.
No. Well, it's like this. Yeah, that's a good question. The reason there is no first desire is if this had happened in time, then there would have been something first that occurred. You see, this cannot have a causal chain because the causal chain itself is an effect of ignorance. So time, causality, and space, they didn't exist until this problem started. Think about it this way. When you go to sleep and start dreaming, and you see the dream world out there before you, when was the dream world created? Let's say you have been in your dream for 5 minutes. So your dream world is 5 minutes old. Now all the mountains and trees were, does it feel like, oh, they just created only 5 minutes ago? Because think about it this way. Even if you meet your grandfather in your dream, your grandfather and you were created at the same time because your dream started at the same time. But your grandfather feels older than who you are in your dream, right? Does that make sense? So there isn't a first time it happened, because if time were linear, then you can say first it happened and then it. Now what if it's a circle? If it's a circle, then a circle has no beginning and no end. So that's why there is no first desire. Yet another way of expressing that would be, there is no logical answer to be given to this, because if something had really happened, then you could have said, when did it happen and what was the first desire? What if something had never really happened? Does that make sense? No? Let me put it this way. Every question is based on certain presuppositions. Okay? So when you ask, when did the first desire occur, you are making an assumption that the desire did occur, because otherwise this question wouldn't be meaningless. Now that assumption itself is being questioned, that really it never really occurred. Now if the answer is it never really occurred, we say, well, but what is all this then if it never occurred? And so that's where we are now, that something that has never occurred seems to have occurred. That something that is impossible seems to have become possible. And that can happen only if it has not really happened. And impossible can never become possible. And impossible things become possible only in dreams. And that's why we always dismiss dreams as unreal, because here in the waking state, everything has to be logical. I can complicate the picture even more if you like. And that is, when things happen in the dream, they don't always appear very illogical. They appear quite perfectly logical. But then when you wake up, you suddenly, when you try, and if you remember at least a part of your dream, sometimes it is like, what a bizarre dream that was. Because from the waking standpoint, the dream logic doesn't make sense in the waking state. Things which appeared completely normal, it may be completely normal to just go and, you see yourself flying in dream. And it won't appear anything strange. It will like, well, I've always been flying. And I'm saying not in the plane, with wings. And then you wake up and say, oh, that is bizarre. I had grown wings in my dream. But in dream, it didn't feel to be different. So that's what we are dealing with. But think about it a little bit. Okay, yeah. Anyone? Yeah.
Now, when you talk about desire, Maslow said that desire comes in the sense that when you get your basic stuff already gone, then the desire goes away. So you have your basic needs of clothes and shelter and other things. And as you progress more and more, that's when you think you have achieved everything. And then when you say, I don't have any more desire, how does that reconcile with how the Upanishad...
I don't know in what sense he said that, because even if your basic needs are fulfilled, like, I have clothes to wear, I want more clothes. I want better clothes. I want more expensive clothes. So I don't think there is any limit to desire. I mean, what are basic needs? Well, basic needs is, I need food to satisfy my hunger, and people should have been happy with that. Then why would people want fancy foods? People want more foods. So I don't think anyone can put a limit to that. But I don't know in what sense Maslow said it. But at least hearing what you say, I don't think that after basic needs are fulfilled, by default desire should cease. Desire, in fact, there is an ancient verse in a text called Bhagavata, which says that desire cannot be fulfilled, or desires cannot end by fulfilling desires. Fulfilling desires is like adding fuel to fire. So sometimes you say, oh, I'll just have this one ice cream and then no more. Then you have it, then you say, oh, maybe a little bit more. Or if not, then maybe I can have one tomorrow. It doesn't. I mean, the thing is, if every fulfillment of a desire is generating one additional samskara, an additional mental impression. And that impression is going to come up again in the form of a desire. So now desires can't end by fulfilling them. Yeah. Yeah.
So Swamiji, they say that ignorance is the cause and desire is the effect. But it's also said that by controlling desires, you can destroy ignorance. Is that right?
Well, I mean, it's related. Thing is, if your ignorance goes away, if it's the primary cause of something, you're just cut it at the root itself, then everything else will fall. But stopping desire is kind of going back. If ignorance has produced unfulfillment that has produced desire, then what do we do now? To kind of retrace your steps. Try to control your desire. The more your desires are controlled, look within, you'll find that there is no really reason for unfulfillment. So the more fulfilled you feel, your ignorance goes away. So we just kind of, the way something has unraveled, you roll it back again in the same order.
Thank you.
Swamiji, how do you draw the line between an observer or this witness that you were talking about and sort of being indifferent? Because as I understand it, reactions can be of different types. I mean, I can react verbally, but that can somewhat be controlled. But then there are things going on in my mind. What is the difference between indifference and just, how can one just purely just observe without creating
things are going on in the mind that you're not really being an observer. You're already reacting. So reacting doesn't only mean going and doing something about it.
Right.
You're just there. Maybe you're just sitting there, but you see and say, oh, that's good, that's great, that's terrible, that's bad. And all this thing going on inside, well, that is, you are reacting to it.
And so indifference, is that some sort of a
Indifference is a reaction.
easy reaction?
It is a reaction.
And so what is a good what would, I mean, being an observer is hard, but how do we...
Well, good reaction, as I said, is if whatever you see and if you feel that it's in your capacity to go and improve the situation, either by helping it or making things better, well, your karma requires that you go and do it. That would be a way. If you must react in either learn from what's happening around you, and if it's possible for you to go and improve the situation in some way, make it better, help someone, whatever makes you less selfish, whatever makes you think more of others than for yourself, do it. So you are reacting, but that way of reacting will help your spiritual growth rather than hinder it.
Swamiji, you said reaction what attached to object, and name and form are obstacles. So how do you explain it for Vedanta student? We need to react because we attach to a spiritual, that is also attachment. Mm-hmm. And we need a name and we need a form. Mm-hmm. So how do you explain that this is good or bad?
Yeah, so that's what we do. Even meditation in some ways is not detachment totally. We are, for instance, the object of our meditation are Ishta, a chosen deity, the one who we meditate on. Usually, the one we meditate on has a form, has a name, and you are reacting with your love, adoration, devotion to our spiritual ideal. So these are all reactions. But doing it to a divine form, a divine name, as a form of your spiritual practice, that kind of attachment, if you like, an attachment to your spiritual ideal, simultaneously creates detachment from all non-spiritual things. What Ramakrishna said, that the more you go towards the east, the farther away you'll be from the west. And so the more I keep myself engaged with things which are positive, healthy, spiritual, the less time and energy I will have to engage with things which are negative, which will take me away. So it's just using the resources that we have, the time and energy, in as productive a way as possible. That's what we can do.
Swamiji, here desire mostly used as a negative, in negative sense. But if someone has good desire, for example, doing good for others, still it will be considered as impure mind, or?
Yeah, and the mind is still impure, but it'll be easier for such a mind to become pure than a mind that pursues bad desire.
So still impure.
Well, as I said, pure and impure is, don't take it in a kind of a general sense. Now, Sri Ramakrishna said, pure mind, pure intellect, and pure Atma are one and the same thing. So when the mind becomes completely pure, it cannot be distinguished from, oh, this is spirit and this is mind. Now we are making all these distinctions, that spirit is something that is pure and this thing, and all other things are less. But when the mind becomes pure, or completely pure, then you cannot distinguish it. It really becomes nothing but the spirit shines through. So that's why, from that highest standpoint, even a mind that wants to do good, I know it doesn't sound good, but even that mind is impure, but not as impure as a mind that wants to do bad. Less impure, if you like. Well, yeah. Again, the reason is this, that highest truth is beyond even good and bad. The highest truth is not good. But not good, I mean, it doesn't mean it's bad, that it is beyond goodness. So if I'm engaged in doing good things, uh, that's good, but that's still not the highest stage. Because my goodness itself can be a bondage. I mean, people who do good things will go to heaven, but they are still bound there. They are not free. So we must be good in order to eliminate all wicked, evil tendencies within us. But after we are able to eliminate those things, what are we going to do with all this goodness? At that time, then we have to say, well, if I want the highest, I'll have to leave this goodness behind. And it can happen. Think about it this way. Let's say someone who always wants to go and help people and do things. Great, wonderful. This person has not done anything bad, and this person is good. So then, what next? Well, everybody appreciates this person. Oh, you're so good, you're so wonderful. And this person, one way, if this person is not careful, like, oh, I'm really good. So they can, person can become egoistic, can feel like, well, I'm someone special. Then that means that spiritually that person won't progress. Or if that doesn't happen, this person will still have say, well, if I'm good, then the best place for me to go is heaven. But this person will go to heaven and enjoy the fruits of that good karma, and will have to be reborn again and again come back here. So that goodness itself will not free the person unless the person consciously tries to transcend that goodness. So even goodness has to be transcended. Right now, that's not so much a problem for most of us. Right now, let's all be good. So just because I'm now saying this, it doesn't mean that, oh, what's the point in being good? That's not what I'm saying. So I don't think we need to worry about it right now. Yeah. So we'll stop here today. When we meet next week, we'll resume on verse number 4. Om Jananim Saratam Devim Ramakrishnam Jagadgurum Padapadme Tayo Shritva Pranamami Muhurmuhu. On Sunday, we will have our annual Freedom Festival. Begins at 11 o'clock, should approximately go up to 1 o'clock. So we'll have music, prayer, meditation, a reflection on freedom, and then a potluck lunch. So all of you are welcome for the Sunday program. Next Wednesday, we'll continue with the study of the Upanishad. And the meditation will continue as usual also. So let's conclude with a prayer now on page 3. May the Divine Being, who is the Father in heaven of the Christians, Holy One of the Jewish faith, Allah of the Muslims, Buddha of the Buddhists, Tao of the Taoists, Ahura Mazda of the Zoroastrians, the Great Spirit of the Native Americans, and Brahman of the Hindus, lead us from the unreal to the real, from darkness to light, from death to immortality. May we be granted strength, freedom, and clear understanding. May we learn to see God in our own hearts and in everyone around us. May God bless us all and fill our hearts with gratitude, grace, and love. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Peace, peace, Peace be unto you.